Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1868A and today's date is May 15th, 2019 and the title of the episode is Trump Traps the Central Bank. This is what control looks like. Now, this is the time of year that most of us have a big old clear out. We get rid of all the stuff that's collected through the winter, hidden away in the back of a cupboard or a file cabinet. There might be a gold mine. Noble Gold can show you how to blow the financial dust off those files, revitalize the dead money, and catapult your retirement savings into orbit. Just for May, to celebrate Memorial Day, they are offering a solid silver Trump 2020 coin and a 10-ounce silver bar for anyone rolling over an IRA or cash deal over $20,000. Talk to the team over at Noble Gold today and call 877-646-5347. Protect your retirement by investing in a gold IRA. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we're starting to see that the mainstream media, they're trying to get ahead of what is coming. And this has to do with the central bank cutting rates. And we're already seeing them making excuses and trying to explain why rate cuts might be coming. And this is what control looks like, but we'll be talking about that in just a minute. But let's get into what is happening out in the UK. Now, Theresa May, she is not giving up. Reports suggest that May will step aside this summer, but first, she's gonna try to push her deal. And we know that they voted down her deal many, many times before. She's gonna try it on June 3rd, which so happens to coincide with Trump's upcoming state visit. Now, maybe she's hoping that all the confusion with Trump there, that they'll just pass it. I don't think it's going to work. The odds are stacked against her. Her third vote still fell by 58 votes. This is her fourth time. It's just not going to work. Why? Because people are starting to realize that she is not fighting for them. And this is why the BREXIT party is surging in the EU polls. YouGov tweeted out the following: Conservatives pushed into fifth place in our latest European Parliament voting intention survey. Brexit Party 34%, Lab 16%, Lib Dem 15%, Green 11%, Con 10%, Change UK 5%, UKIP 3%. And we can see that the Brexit Party is moving straight ahead here. And the people, they are speaking up and saying, you know something? If you're not going to do what we want, then we're going to turn someplace else. And it looks like the people might be winning this time. Now, here in the United States, we are seeing the central bank system completely implode. This is why Trump is out there saying, listen, we need stimulus. We need a rate cut. Now, he's doing this on purpose because he knows when you do this, it pumps up the statistical numbers. It pumps up the stock market. It pumps up GDP. It pumps up pretty much everything. And it gives banks and investors free money to dabble in and speculate in the market. Remember, he's using all the tools against the deep state, the central bankers, the mainstream media, and there's nothing they can do about it. And I do believe that he's pretty much controlling what the Fed is going to do next. Because remember, he has turned the economy around, of course, statistically speaking. And the mainstream media, the deep state, the central banks, they can't do anything about it. And all he continually says, and all anyone can see, is that the economy is doing absolutely wonderful. Think about going back many, many years. The mainstream media, the central banks, have been brainwashing us into thinking that the stock market, the GDP and the unemployment numbers, this is what makes up the economy. Now they can't backtrack on this because it makes them look like idiots. So they have to go along with it. And he knows this. And he's trapped them all. But what's happening? The central bank system that the central bank set up is collapsing. Retail sales in the United States, well, they fell in April. And the falling sales hit most major areas of retail, including online sales, autos, home, garden centers, clothing shops, pharmacies, and electronic stores. Well, there goes that argument that everything is switching from brick and mortar to online sales. That is thrown out the window completely. Now, what we're seeing here is that the entire economic system, the people, the everyday person who is working, yes, they might be feeling better. Yes, they might be hearing the news that jobs are coming back. Yes, they might be looking at the stock market and looking at the unemployment numbers. But if you're not getting a raise, if you're not getting a better job, you're exactly where you were. I mean, there's hope out there, but you're exactly where you are. Nothing's really changed in your life. You're not going to all of a sudden go out and spend all this money. And this is what's happening right now. Trump understands that we only have a specific time period, and he needs to hold together the entire economic system for this specific time period. And this is the elections, of course, because he wants to do the next phase of the plan, and that is to go after the central bank system and to blame the central bank system. And when we look at trucking and rail shipments, well, those are declining. And this is summarized by the Cass Freight Index. Freight shipment volume in the U.S. across all modes of transportation, by truck, rail, air, and barge, it fell 3.2% in April, compared to April of last year. Now, this is the fifth month in a row, year over year, that we're seeing these declines, and the first batch of declines since the transportation recession of 2015 and 2016. The last two times this has happened was in 2013 and 2009. Now, the system can be pumped up, like we've seen, by the Fed reducing rates, by the Fed pushing stimulus. When Trump came into office, what did we see? We saw the Fed start to raise rates, and they started to tighten. What happened to the economy? It started to decline. And I'm talking about housing, I'm talking about auto sales, I'm talking about the freight with rail and trucking and retail sales and all those different types of things. Now, the Fed is in a holding pattern. Trump wants them to reverse this to pump up the economy once again. It's like giving the economy some more of the drugs the economy was getting. And this is what he wants to happen right now. And the Fed, well, they're going to listen. He needs to do this because he sees the real data. He sees that industrial production, it is tumbling once again. It's the weakest growth in 2 years. But again, this is not what the mainstream media, the central bank, the deep state, this is not what they've been reporting on for many, many years. When you mention industrial production, manufacturing, people are going to be like, okay, but look at the stock market. It's going up again. Look at unemployment. It's really, really low. Look at GDP. That looks fantastic. And people are not used to hearing these other things. But Trump is now making the case of why the Fed needs to do this. Listen, I pumped up these numbers. They're fantastic. What you're doing right now is actually not helping us. It is hurting us. And Trump has the upper hand. Why? Because Trump's approval rating right now is at an all-time high of 51%. He's actually winning millennials over to his side, and they trust him more than anything else. So Trump crossed the critical 50% approval line, needed to win a re-election, and we see millennials, independents, they're all embracing what he's saying because he's out there saying that the economy is fantastic. It's booming. It's better than ever. And what is the Fed going to do? Are they going to tighten? Are they going to raise rates? No, because all eyes are on them. So they have to do what Trump wants them to do. And this is why we're starting to see articles out of the mainstream media saying Trump could get his Fed rate cut after all. But they had to add on, but not for the right reasons. And that's very interesting. Remember, Trump tweeted out the following: China will be pumping money into their system and probably reducing interest rates, as always, in order to make up for the business they are and will be losing. If the Federal Reserve ever did a match, it would be game over. We win. In any event, China wants a deal. He's now out there telling the Fed exactly what he wants. He has the upper hand, He has the population behind him. He's showing everyone that he has made the economy fantastic. Remember, we were coming off an economy where the mainstream media, the central banks, they were telling us this is the new normal. That you got to get used to a GDP around 2%. You got to get used to unemployment around this point. You got to get used to the way growth is right now. Trump came into office and basically blew all of that out of the water. They can't go back to that now because he just proved them wrong. We don't have to get used to this. Look what I've just done. I'm waving the magic wand. This is incredible. And now we see the Fed out there saying, yeah, maybe we'll be cutting rates, because they know that if they raise rates or they tighten, it's all going to come back to them. So they're going to have to follow along what Trump is doing, which means the Patriots are in control. They're going to cut rates. And what's very interesting is that the market has been pricing in an 80% chance, and this is going to go up, that the Fed will cut interest rates by 25 basis points in December of this year. Do I think it's going to be sooner? Maybe. We'll have to see. And they're expecting 2 rate cuts in the year 2020. Now think about what just happened here. Before, they were telling us how they were going to raise rates throughout 2019. Then they said, okay, instead of 3 or 4 times, we're going to do it 2 to 3 times, maybe just once. Now we're in a holding pattern. Now we're going to cut rates, maybe once in 2019 and twice in 2020. Now think about what Trump was doing all this time. He was telling them what he wants. First, he pumped the economy up and made it look better than ever. Got everybody on board, everybody on his side. They believe him now because look what he's done, where the central banks and the mainstream media told us that it would be impossible to do, and he did it. We know it's manipulated, but that doesn't matter. The central bank now is the outlier. The central bank now looks like they don't know what they're doing, and they need to follow what Trump is doing. Now, something very interesting. The Kansas City Fed President Esther George said that she opposed to cutting interest rates in order to raise inflation. Well, nobody said that this is what Trump wants to do. He doesn't want to raise inflation. First of all, the mandate for the Fed is to keep inflation at 0. The mandate of the Fed is not to raise the inflation to 2%. She's saying that if we cut interest rates, this could lead to asset price bubbles and ultimately an economic downturn. She said that lower interest rates might fuel asset price bubbles, create financial imbalances, and ultimately a recession. Well, wait a minute. They were cutting rates the entire time that Obama was in office. They weren't creating bubbles then? They weren't creating financial imbalances? And then a recession? Yes, this is what cutting rates does do. It creates their bubble system, and it inflates the bubbles. This is what Trump wants. Think about it, and think about what the Fed is saying. If Trump has them cut rates, and the bubbles get bigger and bigger and bigger, what happens when all of a sudden the Fed tries to do something else? The whole thing comes crashing down. This is what he's hoping for, because he's going to turn everything around. Because coming through the 2020 elections, he's going to show America, the world, how great the economy is doing. It's going to be better than ever. The market's going to continually rise. Unemployment's going to fall again. GDP numbers are going to be increasing every single quarter. And the Fed is then going to make a change, and everything will start to fall apart. And Trump, by setting them up, will have the ammunition to go after the Fed. Remember, he needs a crisis that was orchestrated and created by the Fed to push the audit of the Fed. There are bills waiting in Congress. Audit the Fed. Gold is sound money. An audit of Fort Knox of the gold inventory. The plan has been set up. He's just waiting for the right moment. Timing is everything. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.